So when I think about everything my students learned these past couple of months of emergency distance learning and everything they didn't, I keep coming back to the heart of our job as teachers, which is to let students know that they are loved. I know that I did that. I think teachers across the country did that in a million small ways. And I think that all of us have done more than we realize we have. At the same time, I know that the loss of learning has been devastating for some kids. I teach a lot of struggling readers, a lot of English learners. All my students live in poverty. And what I saw was that the digital divide really played out. For about half the class, the kids were there for everything. Every time we had a class Zoom, these one-on-one reading conferences that I scheduled, they were there. We even did some guided reading groups where the kids that I knew had the same book at home would join in and I would read and we'd talk about it just like we would do in school. And a lot of times that felt very normal. There was about a fourth of the class that we barely saw at all, and in most cases that was because they just didn't have the internet access. Their only access to the internet was through their parents' iPhone, and their parents took that phone to work with them during the day. I think for teachers of kids in poverty, in some ways this feels familiar, because we're always trying to give kids everything they need, knowing that there are so many barriers in their lives that a teacher cannot fully address, whether it's systemic racism, homelessness, lack of food security, fear of deportation for undocumented kids. The barriers in their lives can be overwhelming. When I think about what I fear the most, it's a spike in the Latinx and Marshallese community that will mean students I teach losing their moms or dads or their grandparents to COVID. In our state, we started off with about 50 cases a month ago when we were doing everything as far as restaurants being shut down, schools shut down early. The number of cases when we started this phase 1 reopening has surged to about 1,000 cases. 40% of those new cases are in the Latinx community. That's just in my region, really, in a couple of towns. 50% of the deaths from COVID have been in the Marshallese community, people from the Marshall Islands who are losing the elders in their community. So my fear is that especially if we open schools too early in the fall, that not only will we see a surge in our region, but it will hit the most vulnerable kids hardest, and those are the kids I teach, Latinx, Marshallese students. What my school is doing to try to prepare for the fall is first living with the uncertainty, and telling teachers there are a lot of ways this could look. We may come back and have everything be digital for a couple of months or longer. We may start with really small groups and trying to keep kids in little pods of kids. We don't know yet. The other thing I think my district is trying to do is make sure that teachers think through the difference between this emergency form of distance learning and what it would look like to have the time to do true distance learning where we can be more intentional, we have time to plan on the front end. I always think about it as a space mission, right? Like Apollo 13, there was this crazy crisis and people had to scramble to do whatever they could with very limited time and limited resources. That's different from a normal space mission where you realize what you're going into on the front end. And I think whatever school looks like in the fall, it's going to come back to that heart of what we do, letting the kids know that we love them and we're there for them, whatever happens.